Hi, my name is Dan and I'm one of the DT evangelists here at Digital Tutors. In this video, we're going to look at a question from one of our users, Tricky Biscuits, on how we can get a shading network to display in our viewport. Okay, so here I have a simple torus knot here, and we have a shading network that Tricky Biscuits was working with, and we want to be able to get that to display here in our viewport. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is actually to apply it to my object. So I'll select my torus knot and right click on my surface shader and assign that to my selection. And right now we can see it turned all white. Now the reason for that is because this is actually just going to be a preview here in our viewport. So we want to make sure that we have textures enabled. Like right now we can see by this icon right here that I have textures enabled. We can also come to shading and hardware texturing. We can see if we turn this on and off, we turn it off, it turns completely black. And we turn it on, it's going to give us this preview of what our texture will look like. Now, if we were to come into, say for example, this remap value node and start to play with some of these settings, we can see that it's updating here in our viewport. So our texture certainly is applied to this object. But this is still just going to be a preview in the viewport. Now we can get a higher quality version of that preview if we come to our renderer and switch to the high quality rendering. We can see how that's adjusted the preview here in our viewport of this texture. But it's still going to be just a preview. So let's take a render of this to see how our texture looks on this object. So we can see this is how our texture is looking now. It looks pretty cool, but what if I wanted to be able to update this texture and get a better idea of what it looks like in real time? Well, we can actually utilize the IPR renderer in order to do that. So to enable that, I'm going to come up here to the IPR setting, or if we're not in our render view, we can see the IPR next to the regular render preview here. So we can just open up our IPR renderer and give it a second to actually render out the scene first. Now, and once it's rendered out, Maya is going to ask, okay, give me a region that you want to start tuning. So let's say just this region right here. We can kind of get a little bit of each area of this torus knot. And what it's going to do is anytime that I make a change to this object or to the texture, it's going to automatically re-render that. So let's come back into this remap value and see what happens when I adjust these values. You can see over here in our IPR renderer, it's actually updating that in real time. So we could get the same effect if we come into the grid node here and maybe start to adjust the colors. We can get that updated right here in real time. So that's a look at how we can get textures to display in our viewport, as well as how we can take advantage of IPR rendering to see what our textures will look like in our renders in real time. Now, if you want to learn some more about how to take advantage of things like shading networks in Maya, check out the Utilizing Shading Networks in Maya 2011 course.